Hi, so in this video we're going to be working with trigonometry in a right triangle, right? So in this case, the trigonometry ratios, right? We're going to work with sine, cosine, and tangent. And sine, cosine, and tangent. So the sine of angle A is going to be the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So in this case, it's A over C. The cosine is adjacent divided by hypotenuse, so B over C. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent. So in this case, it's A over B, right? Those values are going to change if we're working with B, right? But so there's a acronym that I can use to remember this. That is called SOHCAHTOA. That means a sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Right? So SOHCAHTOA is going to help me to find the values, right? So let's see a couple of exercises, right? So this one is asking me to find the sine of C. So I want to find this value right here, the sine of that angle. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So that means that my opposite leg from C is the one that is not forming the angle with the hypotenuse. So that means that now my opposite, in this case, is 7 over the hypotenuse. So sine of C equals 7 over 25. Right? So again, sine of A is this one right here. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of A equals 48 over 50. All right, and we are going to simplify. So I can simplify by 2. So I have 24 over 25. So the cosine of Z. So that means cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that means that in this case, C is this one right here. So adjacent is the one that is forming the angle with the hypotenuse. So in this case, it's this one. That is 30 units. So cosine of C equals 30 over 50. So cosine of C equals 3/5. Okay, something to know. Sine and cosine are always going to be between -1 and 1. So that means that when I create my fractions, in this case, they always should be between 0 and 1 or between 0 and 1, right? That means that when I create that fraction with cosine and sine and cosine, my fraction should be a proper fraction. Now again, cosine of C. So I have C right here. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that means that is cosine of C equals 20 over 29. Again, 20 because it's the side that is forming that angle C with the hypotenuse. Next one. I find tangent of C. So tangent of C. Tangent can be any number. So it doesn't have to be a proper, it can be any proper fraction. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. So that means that is tangent. I'm dividing the legs, the opposite. So this is 35 over 12. Again, the opposite from C is 35 over 12. That is the adjacent angle. So keep in mind that the only one of the three trigonometric ratios that we're going to work that does not involve the hypotenuse is tangent. That's going to solve me when we are going to solve application of this that we're going to see on our next video. Again, tangent of C. So I have C here. So tangent of C equals Again, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So is 40 over 30. So tangent of C equals 4/3. Okay, now I want to find the angle. So now I want to find the measure of the angle. So first I'm going to identify the information that I have. So that means that from this angle, I have the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So SOHCAHTOA. So that means that the one that I use the adjacent and the hypotenuse is cosine. So that means that cosine of, let's name this angle, let's say A. So angle A equals adjacent over, so cosine of A equals 1/3, right? So now I'm going to go to my calculator to find the measure of angle A. Is cosine, the reciprocal of the cosine, right? So that means that I have to use this feature. Most of your calculators, you're going to have to click first on second function to find this function that should be on top of the cosine. So it's asking me to round it to the nearest degree. So that means that this is 71 degrees, right? And it's important that you check that your calculators is in degree, right? Pressing mode and check that you have it in degree. So that means that this angle is 71 degrees. So in this case, let's name this angle C. Okay, so in this case, for angle C, I have the opposite and the hypotenuse. That means that I have a sine of angle C equals 44 over 54. So now, again, I'm using the opposite sign, -1. I'm going to simplify that, so I have 22 over 27. Right? And now the measure of angle C, equals 55 degrees. Right? So my calculator, probably you're going to have to press second function and then find sine, the inverse function of sine, and that's press enter. Okay, so on this one, I want to find x, right? But to find x, as you can see, I have two triangles right here, right? So I need to first find this value here. Let's name it A. So then I can use the other triangle. So working on this triangle on the left, I know that this is 90 also, right? So just on this triangle on the left, I have 20, I have the opposite, and I have the adjacent. So that means that I need to work with tangent. So tangent of 20 equals opposite, so 44 over A, right? And I'm going to solve this. So I'm going to multiply, I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply times A on both sides. So I can cancel. So I have A tangent of 20 equals 44. And then I'm going to divide by tangent of 20. Tangent of 20. So A equals 44 over tangent of 20. And here we're going to divide to the nearest 10. So in this case, A equals 120.9. So this is 120.9. Now using my second triangle, my triangle on the right. So this one is the adjacent of 65, and I have x that is the hypotenuse. So that means that now I'm going to use the cosine of 65 equals 120.9 over x. Again, I'm multiplying times x on both sides. So x times cosine of 65 equals 120.9 and divided by cosine 65. So x equals cosine of 65. So that means that x equals 286 286 units. Right? Remember that the hypotenuse must be larger than this number. Okay, so on this one, even though that I can maybe work on one side, only one triangle, because I don't have the big triangle is not a right triangle, I cannot just work with those two values. So I need to find, first of all, I'm going to start by finding this height right there. Right, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that left triangle to find the blue line and then to find x. So let's name that blue line, let's say B, right? So I have on the left triangle, I have the hypotenuse and the adjacent side. So that means that cosine of 55 equals B over 44, right? So that means that if I multiply times 44 on both sides, I have the B equals 44 cosine 55. So that means that B equals 25.2 units. So this equals 25.2. Now on this right triangle, on the right, I have my angle, I have my adjacent angle on the hypotenuse. So that means that cosine of 25 equals 25.2 of x. So I'm going to multiply times x on both sides. So x cosine 25 equals 25.2. And I'm going to divide by 25. So x equals divided by cosine of 25, 27.8 units. So that means that x equals 27.8. How do I know which one I'm using? Well, it depends on the information that I'm given. So here I have the 55 and this is the adjacent angle and the hypotenuse. If I had the opposite angle and the hypotenuse, I'm going to use sine and so on. A right triangle has an angle that measures 40 degrees. So let's mark this one here, 40 degrees. The leg opposite the 40 angle measured 10. So this over here measured 10. Find the length of the other leg and the hypotenuse. So that means that I want to find, let's name this x and let's name this y, right? So I'm going to start by using x. So that means that I have 40. So I have the opposite and the adjacent. So I have that tangent of 40 equals opposite over adjacent, right? So I multiply times x on both sides. So x tangent of 40 equals 10, and then I'm going to divide by tangent of 40. Tangent of 40. So x equals 10 divided by the tangent of 40. So this equals 11.9, right? Now I can use Pythagorean theorem, but I want to continue using trigonometry, right? So now I have from 40 the opposite and the hypotenuse. So that means that I'm going to use sine. Sine of 40 equals 10 over y. Again, I'm going to multiply times y on both sides. Y sine of 40 equals 10. And I'm going to divide by sine of 40. So y equals 10 divided by the sine of 40. So that means that this is 15.6 units. Says a 50-foot ladder is leaning against a wall and makes a 60-degree angle with the ground. How high the ladder reached the wall? So a 50-foot ladder, a 15-foot ladder. So the ladder is 15 foot. Makes a 60-degree angle with the, right? And I want to find this distance right here. Let's name it h, okay? So I have the opposite and the hypotenuse, right? Because this height right here, this is right angle. So that means that sine of 60 equals hypotenuse or height over 15. So if I multiply times 15 on both sides, have that h equals. So finding this in the calculator, so this is 12 point or 13 feet, right? Because it's 0.99. So we're rounding to the meters inch. So uh, 13 foot, right? But it's asking it in the meter inch, so we're gonna multiply 13 times 12. So 13 times 12 is 156 inches. And that's it for this lesson. May the force be with you.